Hiya, Stitchy friends. It's Emily Weber. I think I changed my channel name to Whip It Stitcher. If I didn't, then I couldn't figure out how, but I'm really gonna try because it's fun to have a handle. Hi, it's Whip It Stitcher. Emily Weber here. Okay, I have a plan for today for what I want to show you. First, thank you for subscribing and thank you for commenting, and it was really fun doing my first video and doing all the responses. So I look forward to doing it again, and I hope I can respond to all of you. I will say I had a real tricky last 2 weeks in terms of watching videos. Usually I'm much better, but my daughter had her birthday and there's all this around that, and it was wonderful and fun, but I'm behind on my video watching. So if I haven't, anyhow, I'm going to catch up because I love watching you. Okay, I really worked. Oh, before I do my stitching stuff, I thought I would do the Know Your Needleworker tag. So I made myself some notes. Thank you, Whimsidaisical, for such a great tag. First, where do I live? I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. Okay, when I watched my last video, I was like, I have a Minnesotan accent. And I grew up in California, but now I've lived in Minnesota. Minnesota. I'm trying to lose it. I'm going to go back to my, at least I don't need a Californian accent, but I think I'm going to go back to like my, not a Minnesotan accent. Not that I don't like it, but it's like, oh, okay. I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. I went to McAllister College from San Francisco, where we lived. And I didn't meet my husband at college, but that's how I ended up in Minnesota. And we did actually move back to Marin County for 4 years, but I was a teacher and he's a woodworker, and it was too hard to buy a house close enough into my family. So then we decided to live where his family lives in Minnesota, and I got a job here, and that's that. I live in Minnesota. What do I do for a living? I'm a second grade teacher. I was a school librarian first, and I went into school librarianship because I thought it was about books and reading. And when I grew up, I loved books and reading, but it turns out school librarian is really about teaching technology and facilitating. And I didn't know that because I was naive. And as you know, school budgets are always cut. And when in my district librarians were cut to half-time, I said, oh, can I be a teacher instead? And they said yes, and I had my teaching license. So then I started teaching second grade, and I love it. And part of it is that it's a more concrete job instead of trying to be in charge of technology, which I don't never even really like technology, as you can tell. But I don't dislike it, but I'm a user. I'm not a innovator. And I have, I love the people I work with. So second grade is actually a great fit. It's a great age. I love my co-teachers. So it's been a good move. Do I have children? Yes, I have a first grade girl and an 8th grade boy. They'll come up here and there as they do. Do I have pets? Yes. Now this one I can talk a little bit more about because I feel like I could talk about my kids a ton, but I feel like I have to respect their privacy, and I don't have to respect the privacy of my pets. Now I'm going to try to insert a photo of my son when he was younger, because my first 2 dogs have since died. But the first dog we got was named Hugo. I think I got him in about 2000. He's a whippet. He's the only dog we got from a breeder. And here's a picture of him on the beach in California where we lived. He was a beautiful dog, a total stinker, all full of himself, but loving, playful, fun. Yeah, we loved him. In fact, there's a really funny story where when my son was little, I was telling my brother-in-law, yeah, he climbs under the blankets and he licks my toes every night and I just love it. And my brother-in-law thought I was talking about my son, but no, I was talking about Hugo, the dog. So then when Hugo was about 3, we thought he needed a buddy, and we got him a buddy. We found one. We actually got her from Italian Greyhound Rescue, but she was another whippet too. Her name was Suki. Here's little Suki Stews. Sweetheart. Suki was always a little like, Hugo was, full of it. And Suki was retiring. Sweetheart. And those 2 were cuddle bunnies. In fact, here's another picture of them cuddling. We have lots of them cuddling. I know, look at the hope in that little girl's eyes. I love that dog. And look at the paw. Oh, paws are like I think my favorite part of, well, one of my favorite parts of dogs. And now we have our third Whippet. Her name is Poppy. And I think I'm inserting a picture of Poppy here. She's about 9. She also sleeps under the covers and licks my toes, and she's kind of an only dog. She does not want any competition. She wants to soak it all up, and she doesn't have that lonely feel that Hugo had when really Suki solved. So she's going to be an only dog until her time comes too. So yes, I have just the one now, one Whippet. Hobbies. Yes, I have never a moment in my life said I was bored other than cross stitching. I would say cooking is one of my biggest hobbies. I really love to cook, and I have to accept it as a hobby because it's a big time consumer. And you know, when you have limited time because you work full time and all that stuff, when you choose to make something with lots of ingredients and chopping and stages and a recipe, and you know, I have to accept it as a trade-off for my time. So I do love to cook though. I love especially very flavorful, like, main meals. I'm vegetarian. Otto, my son, is vegetarian. My husband is not, and my daughter is not, but my husband doesn't really like to cook. So then, and I don't cook meat. So then we mostly eat vegetarian, and, you know, he'll, every so often we'll have a little something else. So, I do not like to bake. Okay, Scooty Scoot.
Ooh, morning.
Good morning. It's to chemistry, you know, like exact temperature and how much moisture's in the air and the temperature of the butter and all that stuff. And honestly, I don't really even like baked goods. I'm not a sweets, I'm a savory gal. So I guess I have to say another habit is, or hobby is, going to kettlebells. I am a big exerciser. Exerciser helps me feel good. And so I go 4 times a week, 6 a.m. before work, and I love it. And my other favorite hobby is going shopping in vintage stores. Now, I like antique stores, but I'm not so much about the antiques. I'm more about the vintage. So I'm not going to do a stitchy spot thing, but I thought I could do a little show and tell of a few examples. And let's see if I can do this without making you sick. Ooh, this is my, okay. Really briefly, this is what we call my room. And you can see that it is, it used to be a bedroom in my house. And now it holds my, you know what, I'm going to turn the camera around. Can I do that? Well, yep. Chair, there's my dresser. There's the door. And then here's my, like, bookcase with all my little curated stuff. I bet I'm making you sick. I'm sorry. You can see lots of drawing from my daughter. She's an artist. She gives me lots of little drawings all the time. Let's see if I can give you an example. What's this? I love you, Mom. I love you too, dear. Heart-shaped. We'll talk about that someday. Here's some little, that's an Eva Rosenstand Bleeding Hearts, one of my favorite flowers. This is from my grandfather. Was a dentist. He died at 100. This was from his office in San Francisco. Okay, here's more of my tins. Look, an old Whitman sampler box. An old Garth Williams puzzle. The party planner. There's actually some fun food and games for all ages in that book. I love that. Look, I got this little beauty at the Stitch Retreat. I don't really know how to use those because I don't know how to pull the floss off. So maybe somebody can tell me or show me someday. You know, just more stuff I love. Okay, my son, I think, would say is less of an artist. Sorry, dear. Here's Otto's art. An eraser. See, I'm giving up on not naming them, I guess. an old art jar, a book my mom gave me. Look, oh, my little Willow did that for me. Yeah, hearts are her thing. Anyhow, I got this in Amsterdam last summer. Ik ben in die tuin. I think it means I'm in the garden. Beautiful. So, yeah. Curating, collecting what I consider adorable vintage stuff, for sure a hobby. And I don't know if you saw the basket on the floor. That is, it has like other stuff that I like to hang up, but I haven't yet. I am going to do my stitchy spot in another video, but anyhow, that has antique stuff too. Okay, my favorite movie. I think Crazy Stupid Love. Also Love Actually. Those movies where all different scenes come together. And I am an anxious person, so it's hard for me to forget sad stuff. And there's no way in my off time I can watch sad things because I can't let it go. You know, it sticks with me and it's in my brain. So I tend not to watch scary movies or sad movies. And it's not that I don't think they're, you know, they teach us about humanity. It's that I'm not in a point in my life where it helps me grow. So I would say mostly I'm a happy movie and happy TV person. So my favorite TV shows, my favorite is one called Rita on Netflix. She's a teacher in Denmark, I think. And oh, it's all so beautiful. I absolutely love it. I binge watch that show. Jeopardy. I love Jeopardy. I love cooking shows. Like I love Jacques Pepin and America's Test Kitchen. And I like America's Test Kitchen even more now when Chris, what's his bucket, is gone. And it's the two women who are really leading it. I think they're fantastic. Lydia's Italian Kitchen. I love that show. And then my favorite Netflix special, because it combines two things I adore, which is funny and music, is Bo Burnham. He has a comedy special called Make Happy. And now it's not for everyone. He is not in my generation. You know, he's younger and he often talks about stuff that is, anyhow. But his politics, it's not really political, but it's in line with mine. And he's like a funny, but a thinker. And then it's musical, and Bo Burnham, Make Happy. I probably have watched that like 6 times, at least. And sing along. I love to sing, and I cannot carry a tune. So let's move forward quick to music, which is, I essentially like music that I can sing to, and is sort of beautiful. So my favorite is Regina Spektor, but I especially like the Regina Spektor, wait for it, happy music. So That Time, the song That Time, I actually might link below if I can figure it out, and I think I can, a few of her favorite videos of mine. But her voice is so beautiful. She is so beautiful. Her face, everything. I love Regina Spektor. She has this, I guess Bonnaroo is a place in Australia, I bet you guys know. And it must have been a little bit like what I think was Lollapalooza here. And I know she was at Lollapalooza too. But there's a Bonnaroo special of hers that everything about that day and what she did was incredible. I think my other song of hers that I just adore is Folding Chair. It's romantic and wonderful. Okay. My favorite book. So we know I was a children's librarian, and I would say I used to read when I was growing up. I reflected with this with my husband. I read all the time. Everyone in my family did. In fact, we have a family credo that is always bring a book, because, you know, if you're going to sit there for 3 minutes with nothing to do, you're going to read, because we don't like to be bored. So I used to read all the time. I still love children's books. Now I tend to love a turn of phrase. How it's written is so much more important than anything else to me. But Shirley Hughes is a children's book author I absolutely adore. I have a ton of her books. This one, Ollie and Me. And then, you know, you can always find cold in the park, cold, cold, and the wind blows sharp and keen. The paths frosted over, white as chalk. Too cold to stand still, too cold to walk. Better to run, better to shout. Holler and wave your arms about. See your breath come out like steam. There's ice on the lake so the ducks can't swim. Only one little hole for diving in. It's cold in the park, cold, cold. No more leaves on the tree. It's almost too cold for the hungry birds and too cold for Ollie and me. I promise I won't read you anymore, but that, yeah. Anyhow, I absolutely adore Shirley Hughes because her pacing and her illustrations, beautiful. Another like vintagey book that I absolutely adore is this one, Little Cottontail. I don't mostly love these little golden books, but some of them I really love. And this is one of them. Look at this fox. Ooh. Okay, children's books. You know, I love James Herriot. You guys are sitting on James Herriot's dog stories. You know, his compassion and his storytelling, you know, the vet in old-time vet in England. I used to really love reading mysteries. Something sort of turned in me now where like I cannot take joy out of, like it's not entertaining when people get murdered. But I have to say, for years and years I read mysteries, and I still would consider Lonely Hearts by John Harvey like one of my all-time favorite books. He has it's police procedurals in Nottingham. Fascinating. I read all those Henning Mankell Wallander books. Loved those. I guess, and both of those two main characters, police, and like have a little bit of a sadness in them and cold and desolate kind of, and I guess that appealed to me. I love Amy Tan now, and Amy Tan and Louise Erdrich both do the same thing, like Crazy Stupid Love, which is have stories that intertwine and come together, and you're like, oh, you know, and you know, Louise Erdrich over many novels, and I love that. I guess literary device fascinates me. Okay, I think that's it for the Know Your Needleworker. So let's do quick on my updates. I showed you this one last time that I wanted to do this. Merch Shamrocks. And you know what? Kitten Stitcher, I'm thinking of you and the fast stitching all the time because she's like, I don't frog. And I'm like, I don't frog either. But look, here I am. I have taken this little thing out. This one I took out once and I restitched, and that one's correct now. And then I had to take this one out because it wasn't even. And honestly, here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give this to my uncle. My mom and my uncle both went to Ireland and got their Irish citizenship. And I've given a few things to my mom. So I thought, oh, you know what, it'll be nice to give it to my uncle. So I do want to finish it. So I got a lot farther in that. And you know what else I want to say about Kitten Stitcher and the fast stitching is I tried the sewing method, but I had already done too much, and I'm not ready to do it on this. So that part I couldn't do. But you can see my hoop marks down here. But then I was like, you know what? That was back from this heart. I decided to do it in hand, and it was totally happy and fine in hand. So I did all of this one in hand, and then, you know, I'll finish this one today, I think, or tomorrow. Anyhow, this week I say I'll finish it, and finishing is one of my I'm a type A. I hate finishing. It also is like there's another step to be done that I'm uncertain about. You know, I started by, lollipop stitches. I started with embroidery, and I loved embroidery, but the transfer of the pattern to the fabric was so stressful that like I didn't even want to do it. And in fact, when she made that video and her transfer didn't work, I was like, oh, that is why I don't do embroidery anymore. So anyhow, it does help when I know who it's going to, but there is a stitcher in England. She knows who she is, that I still am going to send something to. I have a whole little thing, but I haven't FFO'd. I've only FO'd what I'm giving her. I need a kick in the pants. Next, I want to show you is I was all fired up about this book and this pattern. And as I started it, I absolutely adored it. I'm going to find it. And I still do adore it. But here's the picture. And here's what I did. And when I started it, I loved it. But then it started saying Pepto-Bismol to me and I had to stop. So I think I'll get back to it when I'm not in Pepto-Bismol. Now, I want your honest opinion. You know, it says colors like burnt orange or something. Thoughts about this color for my son, for the sun that goes in there. This is 1/2 and this is 3/2. I love how that's different. And I think the sun is mostly 1/2, so it won't be quite so intense. I think those two colors are like the blue shades of pink and orange, right? So I'll get back to that. I'm in the middle of my Be the Change, and I'm going to show that to you in a sec. That is, oops, this one. Now, they stitched it on blue and with this hot pink, and I started, my fabric's purple. I'm going to show it to you in a sec. I did start it with a pink. But then I found out that I was like a row down, and so you'll see. It didn't fit into my cloud. And, you know, I did problem solve, and then I was like, no. Here, this is the color it was. I have lots in my Ort jar. And I did like it, but I wasn't 100% sure that I loved it. And so then when I had to rip it all out, I was like, that's the sign that it has to be a different color. So I'm going with this navy. Actually, it looks darker on here. It's more of a navy. It's pretty. It almost has like an electric blue. Yeah. So that's my progress I've made on that. This is my favorite way to stitch, where I can have it so it's not folded under in my Q-snap. And I just sit there with one hand on the top and one hand on the bottom. And I sit at my desk. But we'll talk about that in Stitchy Spot another time. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, those are the 3 things I mostly worked on. And this, you see how like I didn't get that much done? That's why I didn't make videos for so long, as I thought, I'm not getting enough done to show, but I'm having fun, so I'm going for it. Let me look at my notes because I think I'm done. Oh, there's 2 other things I want to talk about. Stitch M and the Sweewee. Okay, I have a little, look, I have a little tracker. You can see here's those 3 I just talked about. But I want to stitch what I want when I want. Like, I don't like planning. I have to plan a lot for my job. I just want this to be fun. And that adds a stressor to me. So I don't do that. And then I'll bring up the other one another time. Okay, my one word. I didn't do my one word. That was the only question that was hard for me. And here's why. I am not a one-word person. I'm a lots of word person. So I think complicated is what I would have to come up with. Like, what do you call it when you can't see anything in black and white, and you know, it's constantly just all the little variables are running around in my head. That's part of the reason I like to stitch, because I don't have to make decisions. I just sit there and go, oh, blue goes here, you know? So, yeah. But I'm trying to play along. I can follow other people's rules. Okay, that's it. Thank you for watching. I can't wait to watch you guys too. See you soon.